ahead. So thank you all for tuning in. The purpose of these weekly webinars, we'll try to keep them short, and we'll have varied topics, and we're hoping after the initial one today, I'll send out a list of the topics and which dates we'll be talking about the particular topics, and we're hoping that this will be a collaborative effort, that everyone will bring materials to share because we have a lot of expertise in the group, and if you have something to share on a particular topic, we hope you will. For today, what we'd like to do is show you some examples of active learning activities. We talked about when you were all with us last week or a couple weeks ago, the whole idea that it's the what happens between presenting content and assessing whether students got it. It's that in-between area that provides opportunity for some rich learning activities. And we're going to, Nicole is going to demonstrate some examples from Carnegie Mellon Open Learning Initiative. They are kind of the gold standard in the country for online learning. And they have some terrific examples that are not necessarily super technologically sophisticated that we think we could replicate in our consortium materials. So with that, I'm going to hand the controls over to Nicole.
Great. Thank you, Margaret.
Sure.
Great. And I am now presenter. Hi, everyone. I am going to share my desktop so that we can look at a couple of different examples, as Margaret mentioned. And we're going to look at 3 examples from the Open Learning Initiative, and then I'll show you another example from Yale on their open learning as well. And the first example is going to be found, and by the way, I want to point out that anybody can sign up for these courses. They're free and open, just a matter of setting up a simple account. And you can go in and there's, I think about 18 courses that you can sign up for. They're not moderated at all. It's completely self-paced, but there's some really neat examples, and we're going to highlight a few of those today. The first one is in the Introduction to Psychology course, and some of the links take a little moment to load. And well, we're a little loading. Here we go. Unable to process my return. 1 second. I feel like I'm having a throwback to when we all got together last time. Oh, 1 second here. I was just on the site, so. And what I will do here is go back to just launch it again. And see if we can get it to go here. So I'll sign in. Thanks. And you can see down here on the lower left are the, those are the courses are, okay. I am destined not to have really good technology experiences with everybody. Margaret, are you able to sign in? Because I'm getting this error that the server encountered an internal error.
Yeah, let me give it a try, see if it's
okay.
The problem is at their end.
Because I was literally just on the site 5 minutes before the call. Okay, let's try this. And fingers crossed. I'm assuming I spelled my name right.
We did a run-through of everything about 2 hours ago, and it all worked beautifully, of course. Well, bad news. It's something on Carnegie Mellon's site. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Well, we may have to just...
We do have two things we can show if we wanted to real briefly while we got everybody here today. One is the flowchart training that we created in Storyline, if that might be of interest.
Sure.
Okay. Not sure why that wasn't going, but we'll follow up with Carnegie Mellon. And when we got together a couple weeks ago, one of the things that we wanted to share with you are some examples that we did in Storyline. Storyline is an authoring tool put out by Articulate, and it's built around PowerPoint essentially. But the nice thing is it comes with built-in character sets and some templates to allow you to get started quickly and easily with creating branching scenarios. And in our last grant, we were working closely with the VA to create some additional exercises and activities to help particularly novice learners get their head around workflow. And we realized to help people even enter the concept of workflow, they needed to understand workflow symbols. And so we created a training course with a little quiz. And you can navigate through here. This is the training part of it. And by clicking on any of these, you can learn what each shape is, what each symbol is, I should say, for flowcharts. And then after you've navigated through there, you can go in and do the review exercise. And what we wanted to do here, I'll do one that I know is not correct. We'll drag this on to decision. You get it's a simple correct or incorrect response, but you know that that's not the correct one for decision. We will choose this for decision, and you get green correct. So very simple, but allowed learners to quickly and easily start to ramp up with the building blocks so that eventually the final exercise that they did in this particular module, they actually needed to map a workflow in Storyline. And we now have a full-time education technologist on board with Storyline and experience. So these types of things, drag and drops, branching scenarios, are things that we can help you create with the resources that we have in-house.
And Nicole, good news. It looks like their site is back up.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can get it here. Okay, great. 1 second while I sign in. Oh, I am signed in. My course is wonderful. We'll go back to psychology. If it's going to go for me. There we go. Okay, Introduction to Psychology. As Margaret said, the Open Learning Initiative has done some really great things in the area of integrating learning activities right into the core module. And we're going to look at Introduction to Psychology, Unit 4, Brains, Bodies, and Behavior, Module 5, Neurons, the Building Blocks of the Nervous System. And what we'll see here first is the landing page for this module. These are the objectives that are going to be covered in the module, and it's simple navigation, clicking either forward or backwards on this to go back and forth between pages, or actually clicking the hyperlinks down here. And so we'll enter this way. One of the Margaret just attended a conference this past weekend with OLI, and one of the techniques that they like to employ is helping the learners, particularly novice learners, create a general understanding of how the content affects them in their daily life. And what we see here, this is going to be a very technical topic. I mean, neurons, right away, we're already thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to be talking about biology. But I thought this was a psychology course. And sure enough, if we scroll down, don't mean to make anybody dizzy, you can see we've got a graphic right here that's screaming biology. But how do you help that person start to get their head around it, create a context for this conceptual material? Well, the way, one of the techniques they employed is the use of a kind of a teaser question. Did a neurological disorder cause a musician to compose bolero and an artist to paint it 66 years later? And then begin to tell a bit of a story, if you will, with the use of multimedia to explain how when neurons are working correctly and when they're not working correctly in the brain, how that can affect a person and their actions. And in this example, just to give you a quick overview, we're talking about Ravel's musical piece called Bolero, which is takes 2 melodial lines and repeats them 8 times, and how the artist of this particular picture also saw and was able to pick Bolero's music because the neurological disease they shared destroyed their language, their ability to speak and to recognize language, but they could take in sensory, they could integrate concepts from the different 5 senses, particularly as they relate to repetition. And so what a great way to walk through this. And, you know, just for giggles and grins, I'll play just a quick bit of this piece here, because it's a very familiar musical piece.
We can't hear it so well.
Oh, okay. So you kind of get the point. We've got a story, we have multimedia, and then we launch into our core content, which you can see in these 3 paragraphs. Every behavior begins with biology. And then the next line goes on, our behaviors as well as our thoughts and feelings are produced by the actions of our brains, nerves, muscles, and glands. And that leads me to the second point that I think is really powerful about the techniques they use, and that's the use of the personalization principle. Right here, with using phrases like our behaviors, our thoughts, they're writing the content in second person. So it feels like you're having a conversation with the learner, or the learner is actually sitting down with somebody and going through this material. And as a completely self-paced online course, that's a really wonderful technique, because you often feel so isolated alone when you're doing a self-paced online course. And the other thing is, we'll point out one more line, they stay away from scientific jargon and that technical phrasing with things like, amazingly, your nervous system is composed of more than 100 billion neurons. So there's that casualness too, without taking away from the content. Here is another graphic, and I'll point out that they didn't have a graphic designer help create this course. What they did is they had someone go out and find a Creative Commons graphic that they could use to support their content. So a lot of use of multimedia, a little more content, and then we get down to, let me just drag these down here. It likes to reset when I have to log back in. Then we get down to these these application activities that are dispersed within the content, and they're called Learn by Doing. And this is simply a drag and drop activity to start to apply the concepts that were covered just before. But what I like about it is, let me click on one of these. If I click on Hint, it will start to give us some hints to help the learner say, oh yeah, okay, that's where I'm going with this. So let's just drag something into a box up here. This structure that it's pointing to, cell body, you get feedback. And the feedback isn't just nice job or correct, it also describes that the cell body is typically round and gives rise to several branches of dendrites and single axons. So it reinforces the learning. And if we select one that's wrong, that's not quite right, and it gives you once again feedback that helps steer the learner back in the right direction. We have more content, more video, and then other Learn by Doing, where there are also a simple exercise that uses a drop-down box. You have the ability for hints again, and it allows you to integrate that learning just in time, just as you're starting to go through it. So it is opposite of a tells and test approach where we give all the content, force the learner then at the very end to remember and try to use short-term memory to draw it back up. Here we're starting just to pull it all through and help that learner start to integrate it right away. And I'd like to show an example of the Yale one. This is also a Introduction to Psychology course, but it looks very different. Here is Lecture 6. We've got our assignments over here, so there's no integrated assignment. We've got a link here that brings up a very simple black and white PowerPoint deck, no images, all text. And the only multimedia that we have is a voiceover lecture, and I'll just show you this. So let me slide it forward here.
That languages all share some deep and intricate universals. In particular, all languages, at minimum, are powerful.
So I don't think I need to go too much farther on that one. This, all that is a talking head, and I'd like to point out that he goes on for 56 minutes. And as a self-paced learner, how motivating is this? You have to be very highly motivated to want to sit down on your own to go through it. There aren't any application exercises. It's just sitting there as a passive learner, taking it all in. You are able to control to different points within the video, but I think after about 10 minutes of it, you've probably lost the learner. So that is, in my mind, a missed opportunity. Let's have a quick look at another course to see a different activity, and this one is Principles of Computing. And I'll just go into here. This is also kind of an entry-level course around computing. And do we have any spinning wheel? Yeah, we do. Great. Once again, similar format, so that let's say you are taking several courses, you understand the structure and the layout, and that there's a lot to be said for creating a consistent look and feel in between courses. So we've got our objectives, and then we can navigate via the hyperlinks or by clicking the arrow button. We'll click the arrow button, this one. And here's the intro, and it's talking about how iteration and the use of integers are an essential part of understanding algorithms and their role in computing. And I'm probably butchering that. So Scott, I know you are our computer Wiz on the call. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too much. But we scroll down, and here's the content. We scroll down, and then we see an example. Once again, we've got the use of second person here. So it's kind of that personalization principle. But what's really neat is in this example, we see a screencast that I'm assuming was done by the instructor.
This algorithm has 3 variables that hold values during the computation: I, term, and sum. So let's keep track of these in a table. Initially, term and sum are set to 1 in steps 1 and 2, and I.
And so it is a minute, 30 essentially screencast that does a worked example. And we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about worked examples, and this is a really great example of it. Alternatively, for folks that are hearing impaired or would like to sit down and look at it, we've got a PDF version. So it is everything that was on that minute 30 video broken out here in a PDF version, so that the learner can sit and spend a little more time and go through it. And and what a neat way to be able to help that learner. It's almost as if you're sitting down with them and walking them through it by using these 2 activities. We also have a learn by doing, so it now sets the learner up for an opportunity to go through and tackle a similar exercise. So what a very simple way, and there's lots of screencasting tools out there. I mean, we're familiar with things like Camtasia, there's Screener, Captivate, and the Articulate products have their own version of it. There's also things like GoView, and I read about one recently called Krut, K-R-U-T, that has a wonderful interface. So, and a lot of these tools are free or have a free version to be able to create really short, simple, just screencasts with voiceover narration. So wanted to share that example. It's not too hard to create, but it really adds a lot of bang for the buck in a course. And then, Margaret, would you want to? Can I pass it back to you to show the other example?
Sure.
Okay. And make Margaret. Okay, Margaret.
Okay. So this is a course on media programming, and this is a module called Programming Talking So Computers Understand You. So it covers programming language, algorithms, and objects. So let's look at objects. If you could just take a minute and read over their definition of an object. Okay, so they do something interesting. They ask in the Learn by Doing exercise, write a short paragraph describing an object in your kitchen. So they link the new information to something that's familiar. And they ask you to describe what information is stored in it, what methods as they describe them here under the object definition, and what methods you think it might have. And Nicole, I don't know if you have anything to add on that one.
Well, Margaret, if you would just go in and type in the box,
Sure.
Just refrigerator, or yeah, just anything in there. And this is a really neat thing because it's a great way to have the learner start to think about something. They can even craft a short answer, but then you always give the same answer. And in this example, There are endless numbers of correct answers to this question. Here is one example. A sink is useful for cleaning, soaking, blah, 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 blah. So because this is a self-paced online, it allows the learner to say, you know what, I got that right, or this is, I was a little off, you know, I didn't quite get the concept, but now I see what they're saying. So it really helps that learner kind of push their own learning and drive their own learning on this. And something like this would be really simple to create because you don't have to try to adjust for whatever response they give. You give the best response, and then that allows puts the onus back on the learner to determine whether or not their answer lined up with it. So we thought that was a kind of a clever way to deal with a learning activity, particularly in a self-paced online course.
Okay. Shall I turn the controls back to you, Nicole? Or did we, let's see, I think we showed everything.
Yeah, I think at this point, yeah, this other learn by doing is another example of that short answer. And as Margaret has mentioned before that, you know, and I mentioned earlier today that we've got a learning technologist on board, and we're going to try to explore how we can create some templates similar to these so that they could be available for everyone to add their own content to and integrate in their courses. You know, some of these are simple drag and drop. Some of them are simple, you know, short answers with kind of a binary correct only. I guess it's not really binary if there's only one option, but so we're going to try to explore some of those to see if we can create some templates that everyone can use.
Nicole, this is Scott over in Spokane. Is there a list of tools that are available for use? We're looking at this and to create some of this stuff, I'm looking at how much time is this truly gonna take here.
Well, Scott, this is Margaret, and we're happy to actually create the exercises if you all can just provide the raw content.
Okay.
Because yeah, it can be time consuming.
That was I was sitting there, I was looking at this, and it's like these are all great tools and great lessons and so forth, but the workings behind it, I'm looking at, you know, I'm going to be spending hours trying to figure out how to get all this stuff to work properly and so forth. So, okay.
Yeah, feel free to call on us to do that part.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know the one that I thought that could be really simple, particularly for an instructor, is that screencasting, and that we saw that kind of worked example where they were literally just, it was probably a PowerPoint deck that, you know, clicked, there was just nice transition, so it didn't seem like next slide, but it was probably just a PowerPoint deck that they narrated over. And those are pretty benign to create, and you know, I've got a Mac, and on my Mac is it comes with QuickTime where I can create a screencast right there on the computer. So some of them are a little more complex, and some of them they might be doable too if the instructor is a little fearless.
Any other comments or questions? Hi, Vivian.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and we're hoping that some of these activities will just spark ideas.
Yeah, me too. I like that you're willing to do them for us, because that makes it a lot easier. It's more brainstorm a bit, get the idea, and then pass it off to you and say, hey, will this work? That makes it a lot easier.
Good.
I agree. One of our instructors was talking with us today, and she's very excited to kind of think about all of these activities and interesting concepts that she could never or I could never create. But I did tell her I have someone in my back pocket.
and feel free to send these over to us right after you create them. It would be better not to wait until the end of June when you have all the materials ready. That way we don't have any bottlenecks. We can create them as we go.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And also we can
first.
and we can share whatever is created too, because I think there'll be definitely some Venn diagram areas of overlap. Any other comments?
I have a real dumb one. All I
I'm
can
sure
see
it's
is
not dumb, Vivian.
I don't know, Margaret. I'm looking at my computer screen and all I'm seeing is this big copy of this email message.
Oh gosh, it popped up on my screen. I didn't notice.
Oh.
Here we go. Let me see. I'll find something else to put up. Let's see my inbox.
Whoa.
How's that?
Oh, that's, well, yeah. Can you get rid of my message? There.
Oh,
that's much better.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Any other questions or comments? And if there are particular topics that you didn't see on the list that we sent out, regarding these webinars, if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, please do let us know. And as I mentioned, I'll be sending out a list of which topics will be covered on which days, and hoping that others will contribute ideas as well.
How many of these do you think we should have per lesson? Or, do we just build a lesson around one of these? Or?
It depends on the content and your capacity.
Okay.
The colleges have, the projects vary from institution to institution.
That's true.
But, it's kind of the more the better.
Okay.
And one thing that Nicole mentioned when she was demonstrating these is that you'll notice they don't have pages and pages of content without some sort of learn by doing activity, which is really nice. But it is time consuming.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's see, we had a couple of questions. Oh, Matt, good question. Do you have a process for submitting the raw content to your technologist? No, we don't yet, but we should look at one. We'll percolate on that and let you know. Another question, should we be designing content for a self-paced learning environment? Emily, I would say no. Your programs are all funded for instructor-led, and particularly since we have we have completion and retention goals to meet, and instructor-led will be the norm for most of our courses. And I know what you're saying, that the examples we're using are self-paced, but I think they're just as relevant for instructor-led online courses. Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, we will see you all online next week. and have a great afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you both very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.